You're studying a lot, but you still forget almost everything the next day. You reread, you try to focus, you even spend hours trying to memorize things, but nothing really sticks. This isn't because you're not smart or disciplined enough. The real problem is that you've been learning in a way that goes completely against how your brain actually works. And here's the interesting part. There's a method so simple and logical that once you hear it, you'll wonder why no one ever taught you this before. It's used every day in Japan by students, workers, even older adults who want to keep their memory sharp. And once you understand the principle behind it, you can completely change how you remember things almost instantly. In most places, we're still stuck using methods that overwhelm the brain. Long study sessions, constant focus, and high mental pressure don't just make you tired, they actually reduce how much you retain. The surprising part is that you don't need to study more, be more disciplined, or push yourself harder. What you need is a different approach, because the real enemy of memory isn't laziness or lack of time. It's feeding your brain information in a way it simply can't process efficiently. Your brain isn't designed to store long, boring blocks of information with no structure. It works based on relevance and signals. When you try to cram a large amount of information at once, your brain treats it as temporary data and quickly discards it to save energy. That's not a flaw, it's a survival mechanism. But what many Japanese students figured out is that memory isn't fixed. It's a system you can influence. When you give your brain the right signals, it will prioritize storing information without you forcing it. A lot of people think they have bad memory, but in reality, they just have a bad strategy. When you try to remember something, your instinct is usually to repeat it over and over or reread it until you feel exhausted. But this is one of the slowest and least effective methods because it mostly creates short-term memory. After a short time, the information fades because your brain never received a strong enough signal that it matters. On the other hand, things you see multiple times within a short period are treated as important. That's why you can remember an ad you've seen 5 times today, but forget something you studied for an hour. Your brain doesn't prioritize time spent. It prioritizes how information is repeated. And this is the foundation of the method used in Japan. Memory isn't triggered by intensity, it's triggered by frequency and rhythm. Instead of studying for long periods and forcing focus, they break learning into short exposures repeated throughout the day. This allows the brain to recognize the information as something worth storing. But repetition alone isn't enough. There's another key element that most people don't know about, and this is what makes everything work. Your brain is constantly looking for signals to decide what to keep. When you pair a small, consistent action with information, you create a trigger. That trigger tells your brain, this matters. And over time, this turns learning from something passive into something intentional. This is where the Japanese method becomes powerful. It doesn't rely on effort. It relies on alignment with how the brain works. The method is built on 2 elements working together. The first is ultra-short repetition. You only review information for about 10 to 20 seconds at a time, multiple times a day. Not minutes, not full pages, just quick exposures. This works because your brain responds better to short, repeated signals than long, heavy sessions. When information appears frequently in a short window, your brain marks it as important and starts storing it. Surprisingly, 20 seconds repeated multiple times can be more effective than 20 minutes of continuous study. The second element is the memory trigger. Before each quick review, you perform a small action. It could be tapping your notebook, taking a short, deep breath, lightly knocking your fingers on the table, or any simple gesture. The key is consistency. Over time, this action becomes a switch that activates your brain's memory mode. When you combine these 2 elements, you no longer have to force memorization. Your brain starts doing it automatically. As you repeat this cycle throughout the day, the information strengthens naturally. You don't need hours of study, but you'll notice you remember more clearly. After a few days, memorizing starts to feel effortless, almost automatic. To apply this method, you don't need to change your schedule or your lifestyle. You just need to add a simple system. First, choose a trigger you can do anywhere. Second, review a small piece of information for 10 to 20 seconds. Third, stop and go back to what you were doing. Then repeat this cycle several times throughout the day. The key is that you don't try to force memory. Frequency and signals do the work for you. And to make it even more powerful, there's one extra step that most people don't know. Right before you go to sleep, spend 10 to 20 seconds reviewing the most important thing you learned that day. This works because your brain processes and consolidates information during sleep, and the last thing you focus on gets prioritized. It's like telling your brain, "This matters, keep it." Japanese students use this for exams, languages, formulas, dates, everything. When you combine short, daily repetition with this simple nighttime reinforcement, your memory improves faster than you expect. Within just a few days, you'll notice something strange. Information doesn't just stay. It comes back to you naturally when you need it. And that's when you realize the problem was never that you needed to study more. You just needed a smarter system. If this helped you, try it tonight. You'll start noticing a difference as early as tomorrow. And if you want to keep improving your learning without making things complicated, make sure to subscribe and follow for more simple, effective methods.